He did not invent the hamburger. He did not build the first McDonald's. He did not carry the McDonald's surname, and he did not even come up with the famous fast service system. But today, he's the one people call the man who created McDonald's. How did a milkshake mixer salesman at the age of 52 see a global money and franchise machine inside a small burger restaurant? Did he steal McDonald's from the McDonald brothers? Would the brothers have remained forever the owners of a single dinner that no one would remember? And why are the McDonald brothers usually seen as victims, even though that is not really the case? Today, McDonald's is one of the most recognizable business systems in the world. By the end of 2025, the chain's global sales exceeded $139 billion. But it all began with a small restaurant in San Bernardino. And this is where we need to slow down, because the word small is key here. Remember it. We will come back to it more than once. McDonald's began with two brothers, Richard and Maurice McDonald, Dick and Mac. In 1940, they opened a drive-in restaurant in California. It was the standard format of the time: cars, waitresses on roller skates, a large menu and long waits. But the brothers saw the problem. Too many menu items, too many unnecessary movements, too much chaos. And in 1948, they did what separates an entrepreneur from a cafe owner. They took their business apart like a machine. They closed the restaurant and came back with a new system, the Speedee Service System. They cut down the menu. The core became 15-cent hamburgers, French fries, and drinks. They removed the waitresses. Customers came up to the window themselves. The kitchen was turned into an assembly line. One person grilled the patties, another assembled the buns, a third poured the drinks, and the fourth handed out the order. What seems normal today looked almost insane back then. Only speed, repeatability, and price. In essence, the brothers did not invent a restaurant, they invented a machine. Their kitchen could be compared to a factory. Henry Ford changed automobile production by breaking the process into simple, repeatable operations. The McDonald brothers did the same thing with food. And this is where the first uncomfortable question appears. If you invent a revolution like that, what do you do next? The logical answer: you take over the market. You open a second restaurant, a third, a 10th. You move into the next state. You build a chain before competitors copy your idea. And what did the brothers do? Nothing. One restaurant in one city. For 6 straight years after inventing the system, still the same one restaurant in San Bernardino. They had already tried franchising and gave up. Not because the market rejected it, but because it was difficult for them to control quality. They had stable income, lived in a comfortable California town, and did not want more. Remember this: a brilliant idea and a complete lack of desire to do anything with it. And then a man enters the story who was not afraid of chaos. Raymond Albert Kroc was born in 1902 in Illinois. He was not a young genius from a garage, he was a salesman. In his youth, he dropped out of school, played piano, sold paper cups, traveled from client to client, persuaded people and listened to rejection. In 1939, he became the exclusive distributor of the Multimixer, a machine for making milkshakes. By the time he encountered McDonald's, he was 52 years old. Today, that sounds like a motivational postcard. It is never too late. But in reality, it was exhaustion. Kroc had spent decades selling other people's products and was still hoping for his own chance. And suddenly, he sees a strange order. Some burger restaurant in San Bernardino is using 8 of his mixers at once. 8. For an ordinary restaurant, that was excessive. It means something unusual was happening there. Kroc went to see it in person. The year is 1954. Kroc arrives at the McDonald Brothers restaurant. There is a line in front of him, but the line moves quickly. People walk up to the window, get their order, and leave. No waitresses, no huge menu. Inside, everything works like a stage where every actor knows their movement. Kroc does not see a burger joint. He sees a format that can be copied. And this is the key moment of the entire story. The brothers looked at their restaurant as a perfectly tuned business. Kroc looked at it as a template that could be placed in every city in America. Think about it. 2 men had lived inside their own invention for 15 years. and did not see what they had in their hands. A mixer salesman who stopped by for a couple of hours saw it immediately. So, who is the real visionary here? The one who built the machine but did not understand what it could become? Or the one who saw its potential over a single lunch? The brothers created McDonald's, but Kroc saw an empire. Kroc convinced the brothers to franchise the chain across the country. Eventually, they agreed. On March 2, 1955, he created McDonald's System Incorporated and on April 15, opened his first restaurant in Des Plaines, Illinois. The agreement was structured so that Kroc had to follow the brothers' format. Any changes to the format or design required written approval. On paper, this looked reasonable, but for Kroc, it quickly turned into a cage. He wanted to scale, the brothers wanted control. He saw a national chain. They saw a system that could easily be ruined. And here we reach another important fork in the road. Who was right? On one hand, yes, quality control matters. The brothers were afraid that franchisees would ruin their idea, and they were right to be afraid. On the other hand, behind their control was a simple fear of growth. They did not want an empire. They did not want to hire people, look for investors, travel across the country and inspect restaurants. They wanted to sit in San Bernardino and receive checks. But checks from an empire do not come without work. The first franchises revealed a problem. If the owner was absent, the restaurant quickly lost its standards. Some locations were dirtier, some had worse fries, and some expanded the menu. Kroc drew an important conclusion. The franchisee had to run the restaurant personally, not just by the sign, but stand inside the system. That was Kroc's strength. He understood that franchising was not the sale of a name, it was the sale of discipline. And here is the detail everyone forgets. The McDonald brothers also knew about this quality control problem. That is exactly why they abandoned franchising. They faced the same obstacle, and they retreated. Kroc faced it and came up with a solution. McDonald's had to be the same in Illinois, California, Minnesota, and anywhere else in the world. The customer was not buying a burger, the customer was buying predictability. But standards were only half of the empire. The other half was land. This is where Harry Sonneborn played a huge role. He saw the weak spot in the model. Kroc was growing the chain, but making little money himself. The idea was to control not only the sign, but also the land under the restaurants. The company would lease or buy lots, build the buildings, and rent them to franchisees. Now McDonald's received not only royalties, but also a stream of rental income. If you violated the rules, you did not just have a problem with the brand, you had a problem with the place where your restaurant stood. The burger became the excuse. The land became the asset. The franchisee became the operator. The brand became the magnet, and the system became the real product. Notice this. The brothers had none of these ideas. They invented the kitchen. Everything else, the financial model, the legal structure, the control system, the brand as an asset, was built by Kroc and his team. The faster McDonald's grew, the more obvious the conflict between Kroc and the brothers became. In 1961, he bought the rights from the brothers for $2.7 million. By that point, he had already created 228 restaurants, and sales had reached $37 million. Legally, Kroc stole nothing. But this is exactly where people usually turn on the dramatic music and say, he bought their surname, their legend, their right to be founders. Okay, but let's honestly calculate what exactly he bought. In 1954, when Kroc came to the brothers, they had one restaurant and a failed experience with franchising. By 1961, thanks to Kroc, the brand had 228 restaurants and $37 million in annual sales. Those 228 restaurants were not built by Dick, not by Mac, they were built by Kroc. The $37 million in revenue was not revenue from the 1948 invention. It was revenue from the fact that for 6 years, Kroc had traveled across the country, found franchisees, fought for loans, built buildings, trained staff, and maintained standards. And when people today say, he bought their legend, it is worth asking, what legend? The legend of one restaurant in San Bernardino? Or the very chain of 228 locations that he himself created? The brothers received $2.7 million for an idea they themselves had not developed for 6 years, while Kroc scaled it. Dick McDonald later said he did not regret the financial terms of the deal, perhaps because deep down he understood. Without Kroc, that idea would not have been worth even a tenth of that amount. There is one detail that explains a lot. Kroc understood that the chain could not be called Kroc's. Kroc sounded harsh, foreign, unappetizing. But McDonald's sounded soft, American, family-like. That is why the name was valuable. The theft, if it can even be called that, was not in the recipe. Kroc took the symbol. But even here there is nuance. Before 1954, the McDonald name was simply the surname of two owners of one dinner. No one outside California knew it. It was not the brothers' father who made its surname immortal. And it was not really the brothers themselves. It was made immortal by the men who hung it on thousands of buildings around the world. The brothers thought their surname was the name of a restaurant. Kroc understood that it could become the flag of an empire, and he raised that flag. Kroc was an outstanding operator. He created a culture where cleanliness was almost a cult. If one restaurant was dirty, the entire chain suffered. In 1961, a program appeared that later became known as Hamburger University. This was the genius of it. McDonald's treated a simple product like a complex system. How many seconds should a patty cook? How much salt goes on the fries? When there are thousands of restaurants, every little detail becomes part of the economics. Ask yourself, which of the brothers would have thought of opening a university to train franchisees? Neither of them, because they did not need franchises. They needed one restaurant in San Bernardino. McDonald's grew not only through speed, but also through image. The Golden Arches became a sign visible from far away. In 1963, Ronald McDonald appeared. In 1968, the Big Mac entered the national menu. In 1975, the first drive-thru opened. McDonald's became a childhood habit that is more powerful than any advertisement. In 1965, the company went public. An ordinary burger was turning into a financial instrument. By the time Kroc died in 1984, there were around 7,500 McDonald's restaurants in the world. 7,500 restaurants. From one. Over 30 years of one man's work. That is not the scaling of someone else's idea, that is the creation of a new reality. Let's be honest here too. Every great system creates its own dark side. McDonald's became a symbol of everything fast food is criticized for. Links to obesity, low wages, marketing to children, and the standardization of cities. When you create one burger restaurant, you fill a neighborhood. When you create tens of thousands of locations, you change food culture. And here, by the way, we can say that the McDonald brothers were lucky. Their name appears on billions of fast food boxes, but all the criticism for the consequences of fast food culture is directed not at them. Their image in popular culture is that of bright inventors whose dream was taken away by an evil mixer salesman. A convenient position. They received the money, but not the responsibility. Kroc built the empire. He also carried all the criticism of that empire, and the brothers remained in history as innocent victims. Now that all facts are on the table, let's return to the question we started with. Did Kroc steal McDonald's? By the letter of the law, no. He bought the rights for $2.7 million. The deal was voluntary, the contract was signed, the money was paid. By the spirit of it, let's look at what he bought. One restaurant that had existed for 6 years in one city. A system that its own creators didn't want to replicate. A surname that no one outside the country knew. An idea that without him would have remained a local curiosity. Can you steal an empire from someone who never had one? Can you take fame away from someone who did not want that fame? The McDonald brothers created a food revolution. That is true, and it deserves recognition. But they didn't realize it. They invented the machine and put the blueprint in a drawer. Ray Kroc created a business revolution. He took the blueprint and built a factory, then another one, then thousands. The brothers were engineers of one prototype. Kroc was the architect of a global system. And when people today say, "Poor brothers, everything was stolen from them," it is worth remembering one simple fact. For 15 years, they held in their hands an idea capable of changing the world, and they did nothing with it, until a man came along who did. Kroc did not take McDonald's away from the brothers. He built McDonald's on the spot where the brothers had a dinner. Kroc's secret was not hamburgers. He saw a system where others saw a cafe. He saw real estate where others saw a kitchen. He saw a brand where others saw a surname. He saw scale where the creators themselves saw a limit. Until the age of 52, he remained a salesman searching for his main product. And when he finally found it, he grabbed onto it the way only people can who have spent too long standing outside the door of someone else's success. His story both inspiring and irritating. It says it is never too late. But it also says an idea alone is not enough. Scaling can be more important than invention. Because business does not reward the person who came up with the idea. Business rewards the person who made it happen. The McDonald brothers protected the original. Kroc built copies, and the world, as it turned out, did not want one perfect restaurant in California. The world wanted the same McDonald's everywhere. The brothers gave him the blueprint. That is true, but the blueprint of an airplane is not an airplane. Someone has to find the money, the engineers, the airfield, the pilots, the passengers, and the routes. Someone has to believe that this thing can fly at all. The brothers drew the blueprint and put it in a drawer. Kroc built the entire aviation industry. And when the world says McDonald's today, it doesn't mean the dinner in San Bernardino. It means what Ray Kroc built. He did not create McDonald's from scratch. He did something more important. He created the McDonald's we know.